Oh, where are we? Yama, g'day everyone, where are we? Hang on, I'll just find us.
We're in the ether. Oh, we were in the ether.
G'day, Saturday again. Hope you had a great week, and here we are. So, and we got, as usual, we got beautiful Jules with us. And we got our brother Sid and brother Donny here today. So we'll go for a g'day, Jules. How are you?
Yamaluna. Busy.
The quadruple.
All right, we got Sid here. G'day, brother Sid. My Viking bro. How are you?
Sister, brother.
Hey, good. And we got Donny. Hey, my brother, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Donny's still in the green time. Hey, and I'm going to put the address in the chat room today early because, pardon me, we got some juicy stuff.
Hey, Bucatino.
Hang on. And please be patient with me because this is also a broken hand edition because I still have my broken hand and I have to take my time doing everything. So please be patient. All right. So I hope you had a good week out there. The world's crazy and I hope you managed to stay centered. And I want to say hello to everyone in the chat room, Buzz, Joe, Jules, Sid, Donny. And anyone else who's watching that isn't in the chat room, g'day. All right, so what we got for you today? Got a bit of a lineup. George has got a little story about the beings that used to live in the world before us and the evolution of that. Is that correct, Jules?
You just reminded me. I've got to pull my information up, but yes.
Okay, we got that. Then we got some unusual skulls to look at that I went around digging up. And the reason I did that is because we're going to look at a little cartoon kind of thing, and you have to forgive the AI voice because this story I dug up is an actually oral story and someone's wrote it down and actually put a cartoon to it. So, and anyone that watches this show knows that me and Donny's culture is an oral culture and there's not much written, and it gets written as we go by even to this very day. So this story is kind of the same. And I dug around trying to find more literature on it, but the nature of the story can be triggering to some people. That's why I'm doing the show backwards today and we're not diving straight into it. I don't want no one to get triggered. It is about the colours of our people. And I'll say you now, my dad's a white fella, so, you know, and Donny's got white fella in him. So, and some people have got black fellas in them. So it's not about race, it's about knowledge and it's about understanding the journey of the human race. So when we watch it later, just keep that in mind, please. I don't want no one having a go at me.
Smart and silly people coming over.
It's all in love and knowledge, okay? All right, so Jules, where are we going to start? Jules has got a story. Do you want to start with you, Jules? I already said we did.
Oh, yeah, I don't have any of my stuff pulled up just yet, but it's nothing new under the sun. I just kind of, as synchronicities go, it's been an insanely busy week for me. had the VP of the company come in this week, and I had to work last weekend, so I didn't have a lot of time to catch up with anybody. So Thursday night, opportunity came, and I chatted with Luna for about an hour, and was telling her this is what I did and this is what I found, and because I was curious if it ties into anything that she's going to go over tonight. And it does, and it doesn't. It does, and it doesn't. And I watched about 20 minutes of it. And there's some information there, but I'm sure Luna will drop the link, but you have to forgive the person who made this because they have the volume just a little bit too loud. So you do hear the narration, but you hear the music. And if maybe it's just me, but when I hear music, I listen to music. So I find myself listening to the music more than the actual story. So I had to stop because it's one of those, and Luna's probably got a good plan to just play this in segments, not because the information's hard and hitting, but to take away from that sound, AI, music vibe so you don't lose, well, so you don't squirrel.
Yeah, it gets a bit hard on the ears, eh? It gets a bit hard on the ears. All right. Yeah, so we were yarning and yeah, we had stuff that matched up.
My information is a little different. I have this week my studies. I finished up with the Anunnaki, and I don't know. I had an image that came from a book that I thought it was a strictly Masonic book, but it turns out I was able to find who wrote the book, and I found the actual book online. The book was published in 1919. So I just kind of did a transcription of it. So because the words were so profound that me breaking it down, I would have just butchered it. Then come to find out that the book, it's called Freemasonry and Catholicism, published in 1919, written by Max Heindel. And he was one of the Rosicrucians that took credit for bringing that philosophy to America. But he was heavily influenced by the works of Madame Blavatsky to the point where he would even, like, what he was working on, his theory of the seven planes, he was tying all of her information in. And there was an old book that a lot of information was pulled from, was called The Stanzas of Dizan. And supposedly Blavatsky got this information from one of her trips to Tibet. I mean, she was just thought writing. It just came to her, and she has all this esoteric information. And a lot of it is what later became the secret doctrine, which she's known for. And we know how she influenced World War II. She influenced a lot of people. But in the works, it talks about the root races, the first root race, the second root race, how those first beings actually got here on the moon block, and how souls were. And then another thing with synchronicity, it always happens when it's meant to. I had this thought of the solar system, but not solar, SOULAR, solar system. And
with a U?
I'm working on that, my thoughts, because that solar system kind of makes me think that this low vibration, that it's a system on how your soul stays here. So that's what I'm getting ready to work on next, is the solar system.
Actually, I was just thinking about Polly and the word play. You know how we always play with words. And you're actually right, and I should have thought about it a long time, being a person like that, the soul system. I've always said the stars are spiritual beings, and they come and go. The soul system, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we live, yeah?
That's where, yeah. Yep.
Okay, my work here is done.
Our star.
Your
We
work is
say
done.
here in Norway, we say we don't say sun, we say soul or soul?
Like soul. Yeah, soul.
Yeah, soul.
Soul.
It's written SOL. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just missing the U in English, yeah. Yeah, there you go, the soul system, solar system, yeah. And we remember our spirits are light, like the sun, we shine from every direction, and like the stars. So think about that. Think about it. All right, so let's look at some pics and we'll have a yarn, talk about what Jules just said, and talk about the skulls, and wait for Polly to get here, because I want everyone here, because the story, like I said, we're all going to look at this story. We've all got something to say about it. All right, so I'll put the skulls up. Bing. Slide 2. Oh, yeah, slide 1 didn't work. I'm going to show you my mistake. Most people won't show you their mistakes, but I will. Went to all this time typing it out with my left hand, making it all look pretty. And when I got it on screen, I got only half of it and nothing about the writing. So I was going to hide that, but never mind. You got to see your warts and all that. All right, so I went around looking at strange skulls.
Star Child.
Oh, g'day, Donnie. I was wondering when you'd pop up. Yeah, that's what they say. Which
It
means
must be alien girl skull.
the solar system, you know, and you got to have a body to be here. I've got to tell you that now. If you want to, you can fathom the solar system without a body, but if you want one here, be here, you've got to have a body. You can walk around, but you can't do much. All right, star. What was it again, John? Donnie? Sorry.
Star Child.
Star Child. Skull, yeah.
So today started off upside down, everybody. So bear with me. Oh, look at that one. That's what we're going to be looking at. Hey. And as in the thing it said the big-headed scientist, that's why I went looking for the big heads and I found them. So it's real. It's true. Oh, that's like the Star Child, but that's different. Hey, you'll see them.
It's a Fraggle.
It's a Fraggle. There's that one.
Yeah, that's the dude from Babylon 5.
Yeah, right. That's
the funny haircut.
Yeah, except when this was drawn, there was no TV. So.
Or it could be the dude from Ancient Aliens.
Yeah.
George Tsoukalos.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
That's what he looks like now. Yeah. Okay. Look, there they are again. This is a pile of bones they found. Oh, and I should be telling you where they're from. These are from all over the world, by the way, people. Like some are from Mexico, some are from Russia, some are from they're from everywhere. I should have wrote it all down, but I can't write at the moment. But yeah, that was a pile of bones, and that's what they had in them. And they're not human. Well, they're not owls. I don't. Human's a very defining word, you know. It's like.
Yeah, but sometimes we're born with deformities. Yeah.
I doubt that a whole pile, a whole heap. Yeah, that's true. But you know what it is.
Just like some people used to elongate their necks artificially.
Yeah, I know, but you can tell. My dad said that when I was young and I approached him about this subject. He said to me, oh, they put boards on the back of the heads. And I tried to explain to him that mathematically, when you've got a container and you want to squish something from one end of the container to the other, the mass actually stays the same. And you can tell the mass of these other guys, the head mass it's too big for that to happen. Only if they already had a big head. So, yeah. So I've done my research. I don't argue much like you. Sorry, bro, because I don't see the point. I just, I did my research. And there we are. We found them again, but this wasn't in the pile. This was separate, as you can see. This was more a private thing. You know what I noticed? There's all holes in there. Have you noticed? It's like someone killed them all because they've all got holes in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked
Generally.
like bullet.
Yeah, spear holes, bullet holes, hammer holes, you name it, it makes a holes. And there's the rest of the body. Pity they didn't show you more of that to see if it's more like
Is
ours.
that Mr. and Mrs.?
Oh, looks like it, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh, male and female, yeah. Sure does. Okay. And there's another one shot in the front. Same area. And what else? Oh, and here's some. This is just more pretty.
Oh,
Isn't that from a cartoon, Mr. Burns?
it's tea time.
Yeah, so you get what I'm getting at, everybody? Don't have to say a lot to understand. Hey, Donnie, hey, here in Australia, a lot of us blackfellas, when we yarn, most of the yarn's done with the eyes and the nodding, eh? Because we know you just get it. And if you don't, you'll ask questions. Hey, Donnie. I can't see you, bro. That don't count. All right. This guy's a banker. He's in the
Everybody wants to hire him, I guess.
Yep. Hey, a lot of numbers just swimming around his head. I can see him. And now we can, just to show you all across the world. No, it's not exclusive. So what do we got here? Maya, Aiken, Luca, and Zambia. Donnie, what you do?
No.
I think they're the Olmecs.
Yeah, I got rings.
Yeah.
We can hear you, Donnie. And here we have, I can hardly read that, but it's the Akhenaten's daughter. And
on the bottom is Tutankhamun.
thank you. So you can see how the head's shrinking? It's from the original skulls that were really big in the body. As generations go by, it starts to shrink a little. Everyone's feeling feel the back of your head now and find out what kind of head you got. And here we are. Yeah, go. Sorry, bro.
There's actually elongated skulls found in Australia. The Strongs have got one. Actually, I think they got two skulls elongated.
Cool.
Shape those ones though.
Different shape, yeah. Like I said, they start to shrink. Like you got smaller ones and really large ones and really small ones. I'd say depends how much, or in time, how close you were to the original uncles and aunties. Let's put it that way. What else have I got for you? Well, some left. But yeah, they're all over the world. They come in all. Oh, and that's one that's got nothing to do with what we're going to present. But I've just found that, and note that it was in Africa. They found it in Africa in 2010. I only did that, Jules. I had to pin my fringe up because it's annoying me and I can't see.
Yeah, humanoid. That means monkey, chimpanzee, or it could be 500,000-600,000 years ago. You know, the people before us. You know,
Yeah.
before Homo sapiens. You know, Homo sapiens was like 3 kinds of people, and it turned into the kind of people we are now.
That looks more like a lizard to me, bro.
Yeah, true. If you look at the underjaw and stuff.
Yeah, it's a lizard. That's why I said it hasn't really got much to do with what we're looking at today, but I just wanted to chuck it in. And there's like half a dozen other things like this that I saw, and I'll go back. We're going to do another show just on these other ones, which are more lizard kind. They're different. They're not big-headed, so we'll do a different show on that, lizard people. Okay. But it was found in Africa because the movie's got a map behind it. The show we're going to watch, and it's got a map behind it. And you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, let's say I've showed all my fins. Let's go back again. We'll go back to the beginning because I only got one lot of slides today. All right, we'll sit there. So let's have a bit of a yarn. Do all these skulls come from the same time? Or is it
one is from a movie, the Mars Attacks.
that one? Nah, that was drawn in like the 1900s, Sid, before they had anything. That's out of a you know, the doctors when they draw body parts, those doctor books. It's one of those. I forget what they're called. A doctor's journal. That's from that. There's a couple of other ones too, but I didn't want to just collect all pictures. Man, honestly,
Well, if there was the different people here, they would have different
shapes, yeah,
skulls, probably. Yeah, different shapes than we do. Yeah.
Or you know, from a woman's point of view, hey, if having children like that would be really difficult.
C-section.
C-section. Yeah, but that was out of a medical journal thing. Obviously, these things existed because it looks pretty healthy to me.
Well, if you turn it sideways, it looks like a C.
Yeah. And that one's different. That's kind of like the Star Child. Let's look back.
I got some pictures for you, Luna.
Oh, you have. Jules got a gem. All right, we're going to chuck Jules' thing
Double D section.
Jules has got something to show us. Now, if you remember a few shows ago, we showed you them little tablets that go back to, right, with the little critters in that, and we saw all the different species. They had more than one species on them. Jules is going to show us something and give us a little story, and it blew me out, and I'm like, wow. Okay, so I'm adding you to the stage.
All right, so picture it. I just opened the office. I'm like 5 minutes into my day yesterday. Usual, somebody needs a quick print, blah, blah, blah. I finish, and I look over at the shipping counter, and there's a guy that has 2 huge crates of stuff. So I'm walking, why? No. So I have this thing that one moment during the day that you know when it happens, the rest of your day is just crazy and insane or crappy or whatever. I call that the fucking. So I was thinking that the fucking was happening, but turns out I went over and I helped this guy in shipping. He made 2 beautiful masks. They are actual foam latex, and the eyes are actually epoxy. I asked, he made them, and I knew all about their history with it and everything. And I didn't have enough time because I had other people, and I was in the store by myself to inquire his enthusiasm with outer space. But when the receipt printed and I went to go put the label on the counter by the masks, I noticed his name was John Burroughs Jr. And if you guys know your UFOs like Sid, John Burroughs was one of the contactees from the Rendlesham Forest incident in December of 19.
U.S. military, yeah.
So I don't know if this guy was any relation or anything, but if anything, it's a good case of genetic memory.
Well, when Jules showed me, I just went, oh my God, they're the same things we were showing a couple of weeks ago, written in the rock. And then I said to her, if, you know, the fake alien invasion comes and you see dudes like that, you know it's not true because we saw them up. So what do you think of that, fellas?
Nah, I'm not sure. I think the bad thing is back in like the early 1900s, there was a lot of what you would call fishy explorers and book writers, and a lot of what they wrote back then has later been written as fact. It's just like nobody since the year 300 BC has thought the Earth was flat. Vikings never thought the Earth was flat. Vikings never had horns on their helmets. That would be stupid.
Yeah, that's right. I know that for a fact. Thank you. Yeah, good on you, brother. I'm glad you said that. I was watching something the other day and I'm listening. I'm thinking, yeah, what they're saying is right. And then they said Vikings had horns on the helmet. And I went, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And then I had to look at that. I thought, oh, I felt like telling them, what, you're right up until there.
What if you fight in like close quarters of you hook into everything? It would be very bad. Yeah.
Yep. But they're the truths we need to hear. That's why I love talking to people from different cultures, because I'd rather ask them about what the truth is about their culture than someone who's observed and wrote a book and has gone into university. No offense,
But that's
everyone.
what I'm saying about these old books and stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're medium old, let's say medium old, they're always fake.
Yeah.
If
Well, I'm
they're
glad you.
new or extra old, they're most likely true.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I go by our culture, mine and Donnie's culture, because it's the oldest known living culture. So there's got to be a lot of truth in it. So I use that as a basis point. But I'm always, but there's always before that dream time. And that's what a lot of things we look at from back then. But you're right there, Sid. And I'm glad you're here today because I'm trying to put a timeline that what we're going to see. I was talking to Jules and said I'm having trouble putting a timeline on it. Did it happen before this or after that? So we can discuss that as
But
well.
we wouldn't know.
Well, we'll check it out. It does have a lot of numbers and that in it, and anyone that knows me, throw a number at me and I'm instantly confused.
Yeah, but we wouldn't know.
We'll check it out. I found this really interesting because I was looking for living proof and I didn't actually think I'd find living proof, actual living proof. Look at that.
You compare him to other kings and queens in Europe, they're all in family.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're not very far out in family with each other either.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. A lot of the Egyptians had the long head, like the picture that we saw before.
Yeah, but they used mostly hats.
Yeah, they had hats, and
to show status. Yeah.
They had people tell me they had weird pillows, right? The Egyptian pillows were actually two little legs with a C-shaped ornated piece of wood. That was their pillow. Now they tell you all sorts of reasons why they slept on a pillow like that, and I've heard them all, and I thought, no, that makes sense. When I realised their heads were shaped like that, I realised that made a lot of sense because if your head's a lot longer on the back, you can't lay straight down. You're going to have something on your neck to take that space. And those arched pillows that the Egyptians had were perfect. So you could rest your head and the back of your head still didn't hit the bed where you were laying. So, yeah, and they tell you it was for other reasons, but I won't argue with anyone. I'll just say that, look at the shape of the head and figure out how to lay down without a C-shaped pillow.
You got there, Jules?
That was just a little statuette of Nefertiti.
I didn't even see it, Jules. Put it back. We'll make it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Oh, yeah, look at the head.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the hat. See, the hat would conceal that shaped head.
Yeah, it's to hide her defects. Yeah.
Yep.
And as I was looking, I didn't know what pictures. There's so much pictures out there to connect to what we're saying. It was just too much for me. Anyway, the Pope's hats and that, you know, the pointy hats they have, that would cover a head like that. You think about the hats in history, a lot of hats would cover a head like that, and you wouldn't even know the hat like that. So I don't know about the big bulbous head. You can't cover that with a hat, but definitely that one. And we're going to find out. We all know that about the Egyptians, that the Egyptians today weren't the Egyptians of yesterday, and that happens a lot in many countries.
What's the difference between today and yesterday?
Motion, movement.
Yeah, because the pyramids and the Egyptians, it's not that old.
Yeah, and it's not
The
that young.
Romans and stuff, they fought with them. Yeah.
Polly, jump in, man. Feel free to jump in anytime. All right. So the guy with the blue paint, where is he? See on the left-hand side, right-hand side, second from the right, with the blue paint on. That reminded me of the Celtic mob, how they got all blue paint over them.
Which one?
So top right corner, in the middle.
That would be the Picts.
Yep. And look at the one on the left. It looks like a little child. See that one? It looks like a child. Can you see my pointer on there? No.
If I met a person like that, I would run away.
They probably. Okay. Where are we at? We're half an hour in. Oops. I think it's time to watch a movie because it's going to take about half an hour.
Hey, Connie is here. Hey, Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, Connie. Marty, Connie. All right.
No, I'm a
Sorry, bro. Olmecs, that's the Olmecs. We all know about the Olmecs. These are Asian ones. So they're all over the world.
Maya is South America.
Yeah, she looks Japanese, a bit, that fella.
Yeah, the Luca one.
Olmec, Syria.
Or Chinese, maybe. You see the eyes and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Pity I couldn't get closer. One's all ornate because they would have hair. They had hair. The Paracas skulls, some of them have got red hair, right? And it's still tacked on the skull. So they had hair over the skull. And I believe, like men today, some of them were bald. Some of the men were bald. Some of them had hair. Women had hair. Like, you know, same as today. Obviously, he shaves his head. You can tell. Actually, if you have a look at his head, he's a little bit bald on top, like the other fella, and he's got a bit of hair around here, and he shaves it.
Honestly, he probably looks better bald.
Yeah, hey. And if you notice, remember in the 60s they had a beehive hairstyle, and it's kind of coming back, and they've got that high bit at the back. But today it's even more pronounced because they're trying to tell you that these beings exist, and they've got elongated heads, and they're trying to gently bring people into it. So when they see one, they're not going to faint. He looks like it's a pencil sharpener. Oh my! I don't want to put that up there in case he's watching and I get into trouble. But other than his head, he looks pretty normal. His ears are normal shape.
I think he already been on Discovery Channel.
Stay with the keyboard.
That could be his dad, his cousin. Who knows? That's Mr. Burns, isn't it? From The Simpsons. He didn't use his pencil sharpener because he didn't fix his hair.
It do look like Mr. Burns.
He looks like Mr. Burns from Simpsons.
Excellent work, Smithers.
All right. Yeah, I found that one interesting. It was kind of looks sad. It looks like they're both executed.
Yeah, that was King Charles Pulley.
And that was all their people. He looks happy about that one, doesn't he? Does a happy skull. Look at him smiling.
At least he died smiling.
Yeah. All right. So, Jules, did you want to read about what you remember what you read the other day? It was only really short.
I did, but I didn't highlight anything, and there's a lot of random stuff that doesn't need to be.
So, but you said we'll just recap. You did say there were different beings, and we talked about the crystalline being. Remember the crystalline one? They couldn't find it. That was a really good point.
So, I'm looking at this. The general plan of human evolution on the globe is briefly this. 7 distinct root races were destined to evolve certain principle or sense. In this way, the 4 races that preceded us developed hearing, touch, sight, and taste. We have developed smell. The 6th and 7th root races are to develop astral and mental clairvoyance, respectively. They will also develop spirituality. We are developing intellectually. Our predecessors developed desire. Each of the 7 root races divides into 7 sub-races. These being subdivided, the evolution of each root race takes place under the guidance of a special teacher or a spiritual entity who incarnates in that race as ruler and lawgiver. Each root race evolves on its own continent when it is destroyed when that evolution is finished. Water and fire being used alternatively as agents. If I'm boring you guys, I can go on.
Keep going.
Each root race evolves on its own continent. But
what's a root race?
A root race? It's not what you're thinking, Sid.
No, because to me, root races are stages in human evolution in the esoteric cosmology of Helena Petrovna
you're on it. I mean, that's where a lot of those ideas came from.
1888.
H.P. Blavatsky and the Secret Teachings, and that's why I don't know how much of this is credible or not. She had some good thoughts, but a lot of her work was heavily criticized, and multiple sources have cited her work as plagiarism. So it's hard to say if it's true or not.
It's people like that we now know more because of,
Yeah.
All books like this makes us study ourselves more and, stuff we read about.
This book.
That's why books change.
The book Freemasonry and Catholicism by Max Heindel. And he heavily uses Blavatsky's for inspiration. Talks about the anthropogenesis, and the secret doctrine teaches the simultaneous evolution of human groups on 7 different portions of our globe, the birth of the astral body before the physical, and the later being molded into the astral form. And it also talks about the priority of man in this round of the animals, including monkeys. The last teaching is in accord with the second creation story in the Bible, also in other books. And on the sacred and perishable land were created by the lords of the moon chain, the first race, large, shadowy, ethereal beings floating hither and thither. It may be asked, why call them human? for the same reason that a human fetus is called human, when the first 8 weeks is indistinguishable from the embryonic dog. The method by which these beings reproduce was to throw off their astral counterpart, which in time could throw off another, each inferior to his father. This provides an explanation of the varying stages of humanity, for such inferior beings were ensouled by inferior entities. This race did not die, but it was clothed with the second race. The latter, after the type had been definitely established, was led to what the secret doctrine calls the Hyperborean continent, which stretched from the North Pole to the South Pole and west. In the days of Homer, the Greeks spoke of it as a blessed land beyond the reach of Boreas, the god of winter and of the hurricane, an ideal country where nights were short and days long. On this continent lived the second race men, ensouled by the great host of the monads who had come from the moon chain. Although having the general form of men, the individuals of this race were gigantic jelly-like creatures who floated over the surface of the earth as directed by passing desires. The features were undefined, but there being no eyes, ears, or mouth. They received impressions through and were guided by two centers of force, the so-called third eye, which has become the pineal gland, and guided into two centers of force. Sorry, I read that. And an organ which develops into the spleen. They were potentially bisexual and reproduced their species in the same manner as the first race. The second race men were boneless, which accounts for the fact that geologists have found no fossils in the lower three strata. During the later secondary period, the waters receded and land appeared in the areas now covered by India, China, Australia, Africa, and the Pacific Ocean in northern Europe. This was the vast Lemurian continent to which the great Lemurian race was led by its teacher. This was the first race to receive the outpouring of intelligence. The mode of reproduction was changed 3 times during this period.
Wow, I found that very interesting. Did you hear that, Donnie, about Australia being Lemurian? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. You know your video's going haywire.
My video is going haywire.
Yeah, all I can see is green, purple, green, purple.
That's on your... Everyone else is fine, eh? Everyone else can see everything fine?
They good.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're all good. It must be your new view technology, Donnie.
Yeah, it must be.
So what, Luna, are you sharing your screen?
Share my screen. Hang on. Oh, yeah, I got it.
So what I just read is this chart. This is what I've been working on. It's all breaking down this chart. There's the evolution, the periods, and Blavatsky. One of the things that she I don't know if she was criticized or what, but her idea of evolution was that before the fall of man, we were unisex, we were the same. And then after the fall, and in the next epoch, we're going to be one sex again. And that's divided, and with these two sexes being divided, war, oppression, slavery, when everything, this is how I'm gathering it used to be. And by no means, I'm no expert, and I'm just looking at this, but what I'm reading from this particular book, it talks about the blockchain, the 7 planes, And all this ties in, takes me all the way back to Freemasonry, where Hiram Abiff is the central character in Freemasonry.
Just lost on.
And that's what I've been working on.
That's what you come up with. But, thank you, Jules. So take that in mind, what Jules said. And Sid, the route races, they're supposed to be 7, I think, route races. They're the ones that Creator made and put upon the earth originally.
The root races was invented in 1888 in a book.
You reckon?
Yeah. It's in the Norwegian lexicons. If you go and look up Helena Petrovna Blavatsky.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you because I'm not an arguer.
She was into religion, esoteric, and hidden sides.
Oh, yeah. You know, when I hear that, the funny thing is, if you go to any native people over the world and tell them what you're talking about, they will go, oh, yeah, that's normal. We got that in our culture.
Yeah, what she wanted to do was really good, though. She wanted to like unite everybody in one religion.
Mm-hmm.
And in her mind, the root religion was Egyptian, Isis and stuff.
Yeah, it goes beyond that, but this is the thing. It just, you got to keep going before, and then you find another one. And this, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's what she thought then, but it's not really true because we found all these other things since then.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, books keep getting rewritten.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I do this show. Weird, wonderful, and interesting stuff. Just put it up there just because we can, and we put it up there, and you just throw it in the timeline with everything else. Basically. All right, so I think we lost Donnie. He's having tech problems. Sorry, my brother, if you're listening. Try and get back on if you can. I'll keep an eye out for you. Oh, we got brother Polly. Hey, Polly, how you doing, my bro?
Good evening. Or it's good. I mean, Saturday. Good Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
Yeah,
G'day,
it's
Saturday.
Hello, everybody.
So how's your week, Polly?
I have a question for y'all down under, okay? Because it's today, technically for me right now, it's the 27th. And I'm looking at the moon, and it's pretty much full. But the full moon isn't officially until the 28th. But it's the 28th where you are, Luna. So
yes.
Does that mean do you get a full moon like on a different day than the rest of the world? Kind of.
No.
Like, I don't understand how that works.
Well, actually, I was talking to my brother Donnie there last night. And what did you tell me about the moon? Did you see the moon, Luna? It's almost full. Is that what you said to me, bro, last night?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, eh?
Okay, so it's the same size, same phase, same, like, it's not going to be full moon until tomorrow for you guys, which would be the 29th.
I'm going to try and do a proper check there for you, my brother.
I'm sorry, this is so off topic, too. I didn't
mean to
start in here and do that. Because
no, but you're right, Paul.
Full moon.
I also have a question for Sid later when we figure out what's going on here.
It's the middle of the night here now. I just undid my curtains to look, and there's no moon. I think somebody shut it down.
Well, there's a big one here.
And I'm looking. I'm having a look. I'm checking it out.
It's almost full, Sid, but I got to keep feeding it.
All right. What day are we on?
Yeah, I can't see. We're on 28. You're on 28. Yeah.
October. Full moon. The 29th of October, 7:24 a.m.
Oh my goodness, that's
Tomorrow.
amazing, because on my calendar it says it's on the 28th. So it doesn't make any difference where you are in the world.
No.
That's amazing. So you have different full moon calendar dates in Australia. That's cool. I'm
And
glad
the
that's actually
The
happening.
next one is the 13th of November. Oh no, sorry. The next full moon is the 27th of November, 8:16 p.m.
And so that would mean it would be the 25th for me. Yeah, that's cool. Well, at
If
least
they
we got that
didn't
out of
have
the
a
way.
different date for that,
You got
that
that?
would be like going in an airplane from US to Australia and not changing the time.
Well, the moon doesn't care if you're in an airplane or not. Said it's going to be full.
But oh yeah, the sun does.
So
Well,
yeah, I'll put
it's the
that
sun that makes the moon full, isn't it?
in, put that in your theory box.
Right? Yeah. No. Okay. I remember a while back, Sid, you said something about horns on a helmet, and that would be stupid.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm one of those idiots from Western culture that grew up looking at books and pictures of Vikings with horns on their helmets. And when you said that, I was like, what do you mean? That's like one of the coolest parts about Vikings, at least for me. Okay, but hold on, because and then I was thinking, well, wait a minute, how come all the horns in nature are on something's head? How can it be stupid if all the horns in nature are on something's head? At least most of them, right? Like, I'm not talking about plants or the horns that might be on the tip of a tail or something like that, but they're used as weapons. And then I was thinking, if I was a Viking, I would be a really small Viking. Like, I would want Triceratops horns on my helmet, because all I would be able to do is run at people's groins with these pointy things hanging out my head and put my head down and just headbutt them, right? Doesn't that make sense too? I mean, is that a stupid idea? Is what I'm asking?
I love it. That's probably what the tiny people did.
Yeah, yes, the tiny people. I'm a direct descendant of the tiny people. I'm one of my tallest.
Same, but I did do a little bit of combat fighting, and that would not make practical sense because I'd just watch what you're doing and then set up a trap accordingly.
Well,
of course,
okay,
with the horns and stuff, but the horns you use for drinking.
Yeah. There's all kinds of uses for them.
You can grind them up and use them as additive in other stuff. Yeah.
You can use them to fertilize your soil. You can make instruments out of them. And here's another cool practical use for horns on your helmet. Let's say you want to like carry something, but you don't have enough hands. You just like somehow tie a string around what you want to carry and then hang it on your helmet.
Well, they have some of that kind of stuff now. Normally, when it's the country fair here, you can buy like a, an American baseball cap, because everything has to be American now. Yeah.
Well, that's what they make in China, at least.
And so it has room for 2 Bud Lights, and there's 2 straws going down on each side.
I used to have one of those hats. I know exactly what you're talking about. I never used it because once you start drinking from those hats, you can't stop. Like, you have to drink both cans of beer like all at once, pretty much, or it's gonna just go everywhere. That's how stupid that hat is.
I never understood it.
Yeah, it was a thing in the 80s. I remember it. I had one. I never got to use it with beer, though. That's alcohol abuse.
Too young. Yeah.
You fellas are funny. All right, so I'm glad you're here, Polly, because you're just in time to check this thing out. And in the beginning of the show, I said, no, we've got to look at this from a proper manner. Don't anyone get upset about it. And I don't want no one getting triggered. It's just knowledge. And we're here to talk about it. So we're going to watch a bit, and then we'll talk about it. So I don't know, it goes for, it says 40 minutes, but at the end is the actual fella. Like I said, orally telling you the story, and this person, a person, used together. So anyway, we'll just get on with it, eh? All right. Hang on. And I hope I don't get chucked off. Oh, wrong screen.
Fair use, fair use.
Here we go.
Gangster DNA.
I don't get in trouble.
Thousands of years ago, on this planet we call Earth, our planet was visited by various groups of extraterrestrial humanoid beings. These extraterrestrial humanoid beings had to leave their planet, and seek refuge here on Earth because their home planet had been destroyed by evil. When these extraterrestrial humanoid beings arrived on Earth, they chose to take residence inside the center of the Earth, because the surface of the Earth was inhabited by human beings. At this point in time in Earth's history, the human beings who lived on the surface of the Earth were all of one tribe, the Ebenoid tribe. Since they live inside the Earth, these extraterrestrial beings have now become interterrestrial beings. The center of the Earth where these interterrestrial beings reside also contains an inner sun. The inner Earth has been called by a variety of names by cultures around the world, including Shambhala by Buddhist, Agartha by Tibetans, Kurnuji by the ancient Mesopotamians, the Duat or Aminta by the ancient Egyptians, Hades or the underworld by Europeans, Xibalba by the Mayans, and in modern times, the concept of the inner Earth has given rise to what is called the hollow Earth theory. Unbeknownst to many human beings, the activities of these beings which reside inside the Earth has affected the course of human history and human development. The first and most noble of the beings which resides inside the Earth is called the Shayuk. Compared to human beings, the Shayuk would be considered geniuses with exceptional intelligence, and telepathic and telekinetic abilities. The Shayuk have a dark brown skin complexion, they are between 5 feet to 7 feet tall, and their heads, brains, and cranial capacity is much wider and larger than the average human. The Shayuk come to the Earth's surface occasionally to teach and to trade with certain tribes of human beings. The teachings of the Shayuk are so profound that when they come to the Earth's surface to teach, they are often called deities, gods, priests, prophets, messengers, and seers, and because of this fact, the Shayuk have strict laws which limit the interaction of Shayuk tribal members' contact with the humans on the surface. The Shayuk commonly interact and have mixed in with the surface world humans called the Danakil or Danakil, also known as the Afar people, in present-day Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Somalia. The chief of the Shayuk is named King Fukur, and his daughter is named Princess Radiya, and 2 of his brothers are named Emo, and Yishak, who has always been jealous of his brother King Fukur. King Fukur's brother Emo had fallen in love with a surface-dwelling human female, and he would sneak to the surface world to visit her, and would also pass himself off to the surface-dwelling humans as a psychic and a magician, and for these acts, Emo was exiled to live on the surface, 20 miles outside of the present-day city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. As long as the people in the inner Earth spent most of their life in the inner Earth, then they will not die. However, to be exiled to the surface world means a person from inner Earth will eventually die like the mortals on the surface. In the caverns adjacent to the Shayuk, resides another group of nobles called the Sinin. The Sinin are also highly intelligent, but also have a fighting spirit. The Sinin are between 5 feet to 7 feet tall and have a variety of complexions from yellow to brown, and they are hairless and are most noted for their cone-shaped heads. The Sinin commonly interact and have mixed with surface world humans including the ancient Egyptians, the Olmecs in present-day Central America, the Mangitog people in the African Congo, and the Paracas people in Peru. The chief of the Sinin is named King Lamsa, and his daughter is named Princess Lucina, and his son is named Prince Atif. One of the wretched group of beings which resides inside the earth is called the Samin. The Samin are grotesquely obese, pale, with long elephant-like noses, and are very negative and aggressive. The Samin were actually the manifested evil grafted out of the Sinin on their home world prior to these beings arriving on Earth. Since the Samin were grafted out of the Sinin, it is the responsibility of the Sinin to police and keep in check the evil activities of the Samin. It is said that an American named Richard Sharpshaver encountered the Sinin and called them the Turos, meaning interrogative robot, and he also encountered the Samin and called them Duros, meaning detrimental robot. One day, the wretched Samin raided and invaded the village of the Shayuk, stealing food and terrorizing the Shayuk family. When King Fukur found out about this invasion by the Samin, he sent a telepathic message to King Lomsa stating that the Sinin has neglected their responsibility to keep the Samin in check, because the Samin were currently raiding and invading the village of the Shayuk. Upon receiving the telepathic message from King Fukur, King Lomsa went with his brethren to the caverns of the Shayuk to stop the invasion by the Samin and to drive the Samin back to whence they came. After driving the Samin away from the lands of the Shayuk, King Lomsa apologized to King Fukur, but tension remained between the Shayuk and the Sinin for some time after the incident. In order to make peace between the Shayuk and the Sinin, King Lomsa offered his daughter Princess Lucina to be a wife of King Fukur. King Fukur accepted the peace offering from King Lomsa, and
All right, so far, what do you think? Because it gets quite difficult in that voice, by the way. So they come from somewhere else. So it will go back to the skulls that I showed you. Recognise them? Recognise the skulls?
Yeah, I recognize them now that you mention it. But what I was recognizing was that the cone head dudes look kind of more Asian, and the bubble head Mars bar dudes look like more Indian.
Yeah. So they're about to get mixed together.
Right.
Oh, I get, and Polly. Oh, bless you, darling. I've got to tell you something. You know those beings, those dark beings they showed you that the coneheads were responsible for? How can I put this? When people tell me stories, I've seen aliens and all that, I listen to them, but from personal experience, I saw one of them a long, long time ago, but they were with other beings, okay, luckily, and they looked at me with total disgust, and it wasn't till I saw this that I realised what that look meant. And no one ever mentioned these beings until I heard this story, and then one other person in the last, I don't know, 20-something years has actually mentioned them as well, but they don't get mentioned very often, and now they're coming out, so beware. They don't.
Well, I couldn't find anything on them.
Yeah,
like while we were watching that, I was Googling. Maybe I spelt it wrong.
You might have. And they had different names, remember?
It was a type of salamander.
No, they're like elephant nosed. Think
And
about
that's
that.
what. So maybe I probably need to look up the spelling, and then.
So what happened? I know in India they like the elephant and all that, but because I knew about that being, I often scratched my head and wondered, are they also portraying these beings as well? But because no one knows about them, I couldn't talk to anyone about it, and I didn't want to give away the fact that I knew about them. So when people tell me their stories of beings and they mention them, I knew it was a pure thing. It wasn't misled in any way by something they read or saw, you know what I mean? Because of rarity of this. So there you go, people. That's what makes me believe this story a bit more, because I've seen one of them dudes. And like I said, the look that he gave me, I'll never forget it, because others didn't give me the same look. They were okay. They were actually interested, like, who are you? But that one, you just...
So they're like the race that has resting bitch face, kind of.
Yeah. You know, they remind me of, you know, Star Wars, the big slug dude? Kind of remind me of them.
Yeah.
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 So, all right. So now we're getting into the juicy part where they're going to mix together these people.
Well, some people look disgusted, but they're really not.
True. That's a funny word, that word, disgusted. Polly's here, look at the word play.
I have a joke for that.
Like the solar system. Did you hear what we said about?
It's not appropriate for your show.
All right. So anyway, we're up to these dudes come to Earth because bad things were happening on their planet, and some of it came here because the responsibility of the conehead dudes was part of their responsibility. They must have had something to do with it. So, and then we got the other dudes here with the rounder heads, and they've made peace. And the way of making peace is to intermarry. How many, if we do that in our ordinary everyday Earth life, we've done that in history. Tribes marrying for peace and other things, but peace is
Yeah,
hard.
see, to me, that's almost a yellow flag for this story.
Yeah, right. No, red flag, Polly. Hound, what's worse than a red flag?
A black flag, actually.
All
If
right.
we're talking about races, that means
Yeah.
that no, I mean like race cars. Okay, this is
Yeah.
why it's funny because
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
one's
I
gonna know
know.
if I'm
That's why I
talking
said.
about race cars anymore or not.
Yeah.
But if you get black flagged, the race is over.
All right. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm
Everyone's
not being
following you.
racist.
Yeah, no, that's why I said at the beginning of the show. It's not about that. It's about the knowledge that comes out of it, right? We're all mixed anyway.
I'll
Like I
race
said,
anybody.
my dad's a white fella, so I've got no problem with it. So I've got my brother here. Everyone, we're all brothers and sisters. We're going to find out something. It's going to, the next person that says the word, that R word, I'm going to grab them by the scruff of the neck, make them sit down and watch the show.
Robin Hood.
Let's continue. Hey?
In turn offered his daughter Princess Radilia to be the wife of King Lamsa's son Prince Atif, as was the custom, and there was peace in the land for some time between the two tribes of the Shayuk and the Sinin. However, King Lamsa's daughter Princess Lucina was angered and outraged because she did not want her father to give her away to be the wife of the Shayuk King Fuelquer. Princess Lucina felt like an outcast and out of place living amongst the Shayuk people, and she did not like living by the strict laws of the Shayuk people. Princess Lucina always wanted to marry a man from her own people the Sinin, and she did not want to be married to a Shayuk man. One day Princess Lucina, now the unhappy wife of King Fuelquer, met Yashak, the jealous brother of King Fuelquer, and they conspired together based on their hatred for King Fuelquer to have an illicit sexual affair together behind the back of King Fuelquer. Princess Lucina and Yashak would travel to the surface world to the home of Emo, the exiled brother of King Fuelquer and Yashak, and it is here where they would have their illicit affair. This affair between Princess Lucina and Yashak went on for months with them sneaking back and forth from the inner earth to the surface world, and eventually Princess Lucina became pregnant. In her pregnant state, Princess Lucina would not return to the land of the inner earth, but would remain at the home of Emo, and Yashak would stay with her. It was here in the home of Emo, 20 miles outside of the present-day city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia, where the child Yaqub was born to Yashak and Princess Lucina. The child Yaqub, being part Shayuk and part Sinin, had an enormous head the size of 2 men, and he also had 2 brains. Knowing that they could not return to the inner earth because their affair had now produced a child, Yashak and Princess Lucina decided to live and raise the baby Yaqub for 5 years in the home of Emo, 20 miles outside of the present-day city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Yaqub's father Yashak would work as a scientist and a priest amongst the humans on the surface, calling himself by the title Mornuakan, the last high priest. Back in inner earth, Yashak and Princess Lucina had been missing for years, and eventually it was found out by King Fuelquer about the affair between his wife Princess Lucina and his brother Yashak. King Fuelquer ordered his soldiers to go to the home of his brother Emo and arrest Yashak for his crime, and according to the laws of the Shayuk, Yashak was put to death. Princess Lucina's life was spared because she now had a child to take care of, but her punishment was to remain exiled to the surface world living in the home of Emo, and to never return to inner earth. Depressed about her inability to return home, overwhelmed by her new responsibility to raise a child, and saddened by the death of her lover Yashak, Princess Lucina kills herself by committing suicide. The 5-year-old child Yaqub, now an orphan, is raised by his uncle Emo, and the child Yaqub is emotionally disturbed and rebellious because of the death of his parents. The child Yaqub grows to hate his people the Shayuk, and he also grows to hate all dark-complexioned people because he blames them for the death of his parents. The child Yaqub desires to have his revenge when he grows up. Yaqub starts school at the age of 4, and is teased and mocked about the size of his head by the surface-dwelling human children. This mockery and teasing about the size of his head that Yaqub experienced as a child created low self-esteem, and further infuriated the already deranged Yaqub, fueling his desire for revenge. Yaqub's uncle Emo would tell Yaqub stories about the beings in the inner earth and how the Samin were the manifestation of the evil grafted out of Yaqub's mother's family the Sinin. One day, when Yaqub was 6 years old, he was playing with 2 steel magnets in the home of his uncle Emo, and Yaqub noticed the magnetic power of attraction and repulsion that unlike attracts, and like repels. By observing this, Yaqub was inspired with a determined idea to create a tribe unlike any of the people on the surface of the planet, and this unlike tribe would be weak and wicked, and attract the other tribes on the surface of the planet, and rule over them with the knowledge of tricks and lies for 6,000 years. Upon coming to this realization, Yaqub looked up at his uncle Amo and said, "Uncle, when I get to be an old man, I am going to make a people who shall rule you." Uncle Amo said, "What will you make?" "Someone to make mischief and cause bloodshed in the land." Yaqub responded to his uncle Amo by saying, "Nevertheless, uncle, I know that which you do not know," and it was at that moment, the boy Yaqub first came into the knowledge of just who he was, born to make trouble, break peace, kill and destroy, and be the enemy to the Ebenoid people of Earth. Yaqub knew in order to accomplish his plan he would have to study science, biology, and genetics. Yaqub was a child prodigy in school, being exceptionally smarter than the surface-dwelling humans he was going to school with, and by the age of 18, Yaqub had finished all of the colleges and universities of his nation. While in college, Yaqub was mocked and teased being called the big head scientist. After graduating from the colleges and universities of his nation, Yaqub began to preach a new doctrine to the people in the city. Yaqub called his new doctrine Tricknology, and his holy book was called the Book of Tricknology of 120 Degrees. Yaqub taught that if people followed his doctrine, then they would be able to rule the world for 6,000 years, and make slaves out of everyone else on the earth. Yaqub made such impressions on the people that many people began following him. The children who once mocked and teased Yaqub were now requesting to be part of what he was teaching. The girls who once laughed at Yaqub were now women who desired him. As Yaqub's teachings spread, he made more and more converts to his new doctrine, and the power of Yaqub's doctrine began to intimidate the king of the surface-dwelling humans, who ordered to have Yaqub and all of his followers thrown in prison. The police arrested all of Yaqub's followers and put them in prison, and filled up all of the prison cells with Yaqub's followers. However, there was not enough space to put all of Yaqub's followers in jail.
Alright, we'll just digest that bit there. Okay. So something I noticed is he had the choice. He got picked on and everything, and he felt alone and all that. He had all them bad feelings, but he still had the choice to be a good or a bad person. That's what I see.
I feel like this story is kind of been told before. Like it's a template for a story.
I recognise it. That's why I wanted you all here, because I recognise stuff like, hang on a minute.
Like Shakespeare has a story like this. I'm sure of it. I can't think of what it's called. And I'm sure there's Greek myths that are the same thing, where the wife of the king conspires with the brother to overthrow the king and like have secret children and like.
Yeah.
So is this the origin point of these stories, or are they just making some crazy stuff up that no one's ever heard of around these stories? It's hard for me to tell personally.
Well, we'll keep watching, but I thought the same thing.
I briefly looked up the definition of tricknology.
Oh, good.
Coming from, there's a website, New Jerusalem, I guess. It's the first one that popped up. But basically, I found a blog about it. And tricknology includes white supremacy, privilege, and covert racism. But the definition of tricknology is a type of deception where one mixes truth and lies in order to take advantage, manipulate, and dominate, often associated with the use of technology in the fields of academia to impose a belief system based on a false foundation. Tricknology is devilishment, telling lies, stealing anyhow to master the original man.
Oh, sounds like something going on today, eh?
Tricknology.
I'll just say, G'day, Rotman. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Rotman. Sorry.
It's almost Halloween. Come on, I gotta throw one in there.
It's almost, oh yeah, we don't really have it here. They try, and they got all the stuff in the shops, but not everybody partakes.
Now you wait till the day after, and then it goes on sale.
Yeah.
Just hang on to it till next year. It's not like it goes bad or anything.
Okay, are we ready to digest a bit more of this?
Yeah, give her.
Oh, and I noticed too, look at the map in the background, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, like where this is happening and taking place.
Those
Yeah.
people's foreheads are beginning to look more and more like Mars bars, like every second. Just saying. Maybe I got the munchies. I don't know.
Good day, everyone in the chat room. I hope you're enjoying this. Hope you're enjoying it, whoever's watching in the future. All
Yeah,
right,
hi
let's go.
chat. I'm not in there because
None.
it starts like lagging and stuff when I get into both YouTube and StreamYard at the same time. So I'll go watch it later.
I try, but I'm left-hand. I'm using my left hand, and I'm trying to do all this. So, but we know you're there. Thanks. Really appreciate you being, and make comments. I'll put them up, or jump in, and I'll put their thing in there. Anyway, we'll keep going because it's kind of a long story.
Therefore, there were still some people free who were spreading Yaqub's teachings. The police notified the king that they did not have enough space for all of Yaqub's followers, and at that point the king decided to go to Yaqub's prison cell and negotiate a deal. The king went to visit Yaqub in his prison cell, and the king said, "So you are Mr. Yaqub?" Yaqub said, "Yes, I am." The king said, "Yaqub, I have come to see if we could work out some agreement that would bring about an end to this trouble. What would you suggest?" Yaqub said to the king, "If you give me and my followers everything to start a civilization, and furnish us with money and other necessities of life for 20 years, I will take my followers and we will leave." The king was pleased with the deal offered by Yaqub, and agreed to take care of them for 20 years, until Yaqub's followers were able to go for themselves. After 20 years, the government began to make preparation for the exiling of Yaqub and his followers. The king ordered everyone rounded up who was a believer in Yaqub's doctrine, and they took them to the seaport and loaded them on ships. When Yaqub and his followers departed, there were a total of 59,999 followers plus Yaqub, making 60,000 total people on 100 ships. Yaqub and his fleet of ships departed from an area 20 miles outside of the present-day city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and set sail on the Red Sea, and sailed all the way around the continent of Africa to go to their destination, which was the area which is currently called the island of Patmos, or Palam, in the Aegean Sea. While on the ships sailing around Africa to get to the area which is currently called the island of Patmos, Yaqub began the second part of his plan, which was a eugenics human graftation experiment. Even though all of the people on the surface of the earth were of one tribe, the Ebenoid tribe, there was still some variation within the Ebenoid tribe, and Yaqub began to highlight these differences, and Yaqub taught these people that they were special, because Yaqub planned to use them to graft his new tribe. Yaqub developed his theory by studying his own genetics under the microscope and noticing that there were two different genes in him, one gene that was dark from his father Yishak's family, the Shayuk, and the other that was not dark from his mother Princess Lucina's family, the Sinin. Yaqub began to have children with the women on this ship, and the babies which were born that were a lighter complexion he would spare their life, but the babies which were born which were of a darker complexion, Yaqub would have thrown overboard into the ocean. Yaqub felt if he could successfully separate the darker gene from the lighter gene, then he could graft the Ebenoid tribe into its last stage, which would be albinoid. Yaqub planned to create a tribe of albinoids, which he discovered was weaker than the Ebenoid gene, which would be unalike, to rule the Ebenoid nation for 6,000 years. When Yaqub's followers found out about his new wicked plan, and learned that he was killing and throwing babies overboard into the ocean, 95% of his followers lost their loyalty to Yaqub, and abandoned his mission and jumped ship. As Yaqub's fleet of ships sailed around Africa, people who lost loyalty to his mission would jump ship into the areas which are now Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, Djibouti, Somalia, Mozambique, Namibia, Senegal, Morocco, and Tunisia. 10% of the original 60,000 of Yaqub's followers betrayed Yaqub and jumped ship. 85% of the original 60,000 of Yaqub's followers jumped ship because they were confused why he would do such a horrible thing, leaving only 5% of the original 60,000 of Yaqub's followers who actually made it to their destination of the island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea. As king on his island, Yaqub set up birth control and Planned Parenthood laws which would contribute to his plan of negative eugenics and genocide to breed his albinoid tribe. Yaqub made it a law that only the lighter complexion people could have children. People with darker complexions were put to death, and when children were born, nurses were ordered to have the darker babies killed by pricking the brains with a sharp needle as soon as the child's head was out of the mother, but the lighter babies were allowed to live. Yaqub's aim was to kill and destroy the Ebenoid nation. Yaqub would have the dead bodies of the darker babies fed to wild beasts, and if they could not find a wild beast to feed the bodies to, they would take the dead bodies of the babies to a cremator to be burned. This is the level of intense hatred Yaqub had in his heart. This process went on for years on Yaqub's island as Yaqub trained his sons and grandsons to carry on his work after he died. Yaqub died at the age of 150 years old from a brain tumor. As the father of technology, Yaqub taught his people a doctrine which would enable them to rule the world for 6,000 years. Yaqub also taught his people that God is a spirit and a spook and not a man, and Yaqub was the founder of the doctrine that unlike attracts and like repels. After 200 years on Yaqub's island, all of the darker babies had been done away with, and all babies were born of a new tribe called the Rubedoid tribe. After another 200 years, all babies were born of an even newer tribe called the Citrinoid tribe. And finally, after another 200 years, which makes 600 years total, all the babies born on Yaqub's island were of Yaqub's desired albinoid tribe. It took 600 years to breed Yaqub's albinoid tribe, and every imagination of their heart and all of their actions were wicked continuously. The evilness of the albinoids not only affected themselves, but also affected the other peoples of the world. Yaqub's albinoids returned to the city where they were exiled from. Once back in the city, it took only 6 months for Yaqub's albinoids to cause chaos and war amongst the Ebenoid people. The king of the Ebenoid people realized that it was Yaqub's albinoids who were causing all the trouble, and the king made a decree to drive Yaqub's evil albinoids from amongst them. The king rounded up all of Yaqub's albinoids and stripped them of their clothing, and put an apron on them to hide their nakedness, and sent his army with them across the desert to cross the burning sands into the place which is modern-day Europe. Yaqub's albinoids were roped into the mountains and caves, and the king's army would patrol the area to make sure Yaqub's albinoids stayed in the mountains and caves for 2,000 years to ensure that these people are kept away from the Ebenoid people. During this 2,000-year period living in the mountains and caves without anything to start civilization, Yaqub's albinoids became shameless, and lost all sense of shame and started going nude, and in the winter they wore animal skins for clothes and grew hair all over their bodies and faces like all the other wild animals. Yaqub's albinoids tamed the wolves and dogs to live in the caves with them, and after some time the dog held a high place among their family, becoming their best friend. After 2,000 years of living in the caves, the wickedness of Yaqub's albinoids was observed, and an Ebenoid man named Moshe was sent to civilize them. Moshe led Yaqub's albinoids out of the caves. However, once out of the caves, Yaqub's albinoids killed Moshe. Free from the caves, Yaqub's albinoids went on a rampage throughout the earth, conquering and subjecting the Ebenoid people, pitting one against the other using the idea of divide and conquer. Yaqub's albinoids began to execute Yaqub's plan for them to rule the world for 6,000 years. A man named Mahamdu attempted to teach Yaqub's albinoids to convince them to end their devilishment. However, this was still 1,400 years before the end of Yaqub's albinoids' 6,000-year period of dominion over the earth. And so, Yaqub's albinoids ruled the earth for 6,000 years, spreading their devilishment, evil, pain, suffering.
Alright, I just want to stop it there. It reminds me of stories, other stories. Definitely. I'm trying to place what actual time it happened in, because they're saying 6,000 years this took place in.
I want to know how he died of a brain tumor.
He had 2 brains.
I can't put a timeline on it because there's so much similarity to the Anunnaki story.
I also want to know, like, did he really die of a brain tumor, or is that just a weird twist of fate? Look at his head.
It's just what it says in the book. We don't know.
Like, he was probably born with a brain tumor is what it looks like. A big one.
Well, I mean, he had 2 brains.
Well, mixing 2 different species together.
No, I don't. Okay, I disagree with the 2 brains thing. I think he just has a big brain, and he has a large left hemisphere and a large right hemisphere.
It kind of looks like that, eh?
And that's what we have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to say that, I mean, you could say humans have 2 brains then, a left one and a right one.
Exactly.
I don't think he had 2 brains. So what does he have, 4 hemispheres in his head?
No, I think what you're saying is more right. He
doesn't have 2 brains. I mean, that's just my opinion. I would say he just has 2 larger hemispheres of 1 brain.
And we've got to remember, this is an old story. It was said in another language and had to be translated into English, so we've lost a lot of the meaning.
Yeah, and there's so many
what they're
stories that
saying.
tell the exact same
Yeah.
thing, except
And-
for the part about the breeding of the race that took 600 years to get going, and then they exiled them, and then somehow they managed to conquer all of Europe
Well,
with one brain.
yeah. But what he did, because his mum was that colour, right? And he actually dissed his mum by making people that looked like his mum to be evil, and they were fighting evil from their planet in the first place.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
like one of the oldest story tropes you can think of, is a hatred for your mom. Like, I don't know about the words and the wording of like what he's labeling different whatever you call them, I guess they're races of people. But you could just transpose this whole story and put it on a lot of other situations that have happened throughout history, and it lines up almost identically.
Yeah, that's what I keep seeing. The stories are flashing. I'm not sure where they're all coming from, but it's like, remember that story, that story, that story? I'm like, yeah.
Right.
And looking at the map behind them, it's like, oh man, and look what's happening over there, and has always happened. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking, wow.
See,
Now
I mean, mentioning the 6,000-year reign of evil, I mean, it's just so much. It reminds me, that's where it ties in for me with the Anunnaki part.
Why 6,000?
The 6,000 years ago is just 4,000 BC. That's when the first pyramids were built.
Allegedly.
I think the pyramids are older than that.
It was perfectly doable with cranes and
they call
copper
it.
tools. It's all sandstone. It's not granite.
I know. What do you reckon, Donnie? You still there, brother?
Yeah, I'm still soaking it in. I'm going, as Jules said, 6,000 years. Oh, was it Sid who said it? That goes back to the start of the Egyptian Empire, wasn't it?
About 4,000 BC.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first kingdom in Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
At least
Maybe
what
it was
we call the first one. Yeah.
Well, see,
Yeah,
and
maybe.
I don't, when I'm reading that, when the albinoids walked across the country, I don't know why that made me think of the Exodus.
Same here. I thought of that too.
We can also read Sanskrit, and we know who the Anunnaki is. We always known. The thing with the Anunnaki being aliens, it's just a new book, a new old book. We had
I am
the
seeing
Sanskrit.
similarities with, I mean, with at the beginning with Yakut and the two brothers. That was Inky and Enlil. I mean, there's similarities. So that whole like that 6,000-year thing, I hear you. That it's a big like, huh?
6,000 years also happens to be like a well documented, both historically and geologically. There's a cycle that goes on in every 6,000 years, but mainly every other 6,000 years, it's even more obvious. So it's like one strong one weak one strong one weak one. But it's every 6,000 years. So what does that mean? Are they just metaphorizing this whole story into a 6,000 year cycle that we're supposed to get something out of? Or
I don't know.
Why should we
never seen
care?
it.
Okay, let's continue.
I mean,
Donnie,
I don't
what-
know how I feel about being created from somebody out of pure hatred.
Yeah, but they also know where they sailed to. They sailed to the Atlantic Ocean, didn't they?
Yeah, they say he sailed around and they jumped ship. Yeah,
Yeah.
they said the names and places. But you got to remember, there's going to be other people. This is only what he designed, right? He designed this specific thing. There's other people around the world at the same time not living like that. Okay. So
I'm still stuck on one thing though.
What?
How do they know he died of a brain tumor?
They
So no, this is not a joke. This is
They did an
this is an
autopsy.
honest question
did an
because
autopsy,
when
mate.
you're writing something like that long ago, like how do you describe a brain tumor?
You did.
And
You
how
missed
do you
it.
even know to cut open the head to figure out what killed the person? Why don't you just like when did autopsies even start?
The Egyptians did
Like-
brain surgery.
The Egyptians did it. The Egyptians knew how to the different organs in the body and what to pull out. They did.
Yeah, they
surgery.
did that for preservation, but they didn't
They
look at the
surgery,
brain
yeah.
before they pulled it out. They just stuck a coat hanger up there
They
and
took out pieces of your
Yanked it out
brain
and
if
put it
they
in
thought
some
you were
knock-
stupid
and-
enough.
Forget one
And they
thing.
put all the innards in those little synaptic jars.
We could forget one thing. I reckon about that time they had technology. Remember, we've had technology before.
Yeah, but how do you even describe a brain tumor to somebody? Like, let's say you're documenting all this stuff, right? Putting it down on a book or whatever, and then you hand it
I
to
get what you're
somebody
saying.
like what's a brain tumor? No, people aren't going to know what a brain tumor is. How?
Yeah,
And
well,
I still think it's funny because if you look at his head, it's like, well, yeah, that's probably what he's going to die of. Sorry. No
Yeah.
offense,
Maybe he had
buddy.
an argument and he blew his head up. Who knows?
He stuck his thumb in his
Maybe he
mouth and his
blew
head
himself
popped.
up. Yeah.
Donnie, what did you want to say, brother?
well, you can see this has actually been modernised. This story.
Yeah.
Now, they must interpret of him dying of a brain tumour by the elements that he had. Like he might have had massive headaches and lethargic and loss of vision and all that. And they could put two and two together and say, oh, he died of a brain tumour.
Yeah, good
His
point.
whole
It's just a way of
Yeah,
condensing. Yeah. It's easier than saying, oh, he died of massive headaches, blurry vision, dizziness, and all. Yeah, I get it. No, that's a good point, Donnie.
It was a little bit loopy.
Oh, mate, look. That's what I can put it down to be, eh?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm glad you're here. That's awesome. Thanks.
All right. Are we ready for some more? Okay, let's go. Because there's a good story at the end.
Suffering and oppression to the Ebenoid people of the Earth is designed by the big head scientist Yaqub. The events of Yaqub occurred approximately 6,600 years ago, and the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner Earth foresaw the birth of Yaqub 15,000 years ago. This history, or future, of Yaqub and his people was predicted and foretold by the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner Earth 8,400 years before the birth of Yaqub. The 24 wise elder scientists of the inner Earth were aware of the birth of Yaqub, and they were aware of the things Yaqub would do before Yaqub was even born. The 24 wise elder scientists of the inner Earth predicted that in the year 8,400, this man Yaqub would be born, and when this man was born, he will change civilization in the world, and produce a new tribe of people, who would rule the original Ebenoid people for 6,000 years, from the 9,000th year to the 15,000th year. After the 6,000-year rule of Yaqub's people, the Ebenoid people would give birth to one whose wisdom, knowledge and power would be infinite. One whom the world would recognize as being the greatest and mightiest since the creation of the universe, and that Yaqub's old warring wicked world would be removed and destroyed, and the Ebenoid nation would be restored into power to rule forever and to establish a world of peace and righteousness. This great redeemer of the Ebenoid people, who was predicted by the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner Earth to bring balance back into the world, is known under many names, titles, and attributes, including He who has no equal, He who there never was anyone like, the Supreme Being, the Mighty, the Wise, the Best Knower, the Light, the Life Giver, the Guide, the All-Powerful, He who knows how to reproduce the universe and the people of his choice. But his mother calls him Yashmal. Yashmal was the son of Princess Radiya of the Shayuk family, and Prince Atif the Sinin family. Yashmal's parents, Princess Radiya and Prince Atif, married each other in order to establish peace between their two quarreling tribes. However, the union of Princess Radiya and Prince Atif was more than mere chance. Their union was specifically guided, selected, and arranged by the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner earth who were also genetic engineers. They knew that the offspring of the union between Princess Radiya and Prince Atif would be the personification of order to balance out and offset the chaos of Yaqub, who was the offspring of Yashak and Princess Lucina. Yashmal began his education on the day he was born, as is the custom amongst members of the Shayuk. It would be unheard of for a member of the Shayuk to wait until the age of 4 to start school unless the child was mentally handicapped. Being part Shayuk and part Sinin, Yashmal's head was noticeably larger than the other members of the Shayuk and Sinin. Yashmal had an enormous head, 2 brains, and a third enlarged pineal gland which sat in the center of his 2 brains, making the top of his head appearing to be shaped like 3 orbs. Amongst the Shayuk and Sinin, Yashmal would be called the big head scientist. However, amongst these tribes, this statement was not taken to be an insult, but rather a compliment, alluding to the individual's intelligence in the same way that saying big muscles alludes to an individual's strength. Since Yashmal was raised in his native land amongst his people who looked like him, he did not suffer from the same ridicule, mockery, and low self-esteem which plagued his cousin Yaqub, who grew up in a foreign land amongst other than self and kind. As a child, Yashmal was an exceptional prodigy and a genius. Yashmal was also told stories of the evil activities which transpired at the hands of his cousin Yaqub. One day, when Yashmal was 9 years old, he was playing with 2 electromagnets in the home of his grandfather King Fukur, and noticed that electrons flowing in the same direction through 2 electromagnets would create the magnetic phenomenon of attraction, and that electrons flowing in opposite directions through 2 electromagnets would create the magnetic phenomenon of repulsion. By observing this, Yashmal realized that like flowing energies create attraction and unlike flowing energies create repulsion. Thus, Yashmal was inspired with a determined idea to direct the flow of mental energy of the Ebenoid people of the planet in the same direction so that the Ebenoid people of the planet will be unified again to be strong and righteous, and bring peace and balance back to the earth forever. Upon coming to this realization, Yashmal looked up at his grandfather King Fukur and said, "Grandfather, when I get older, I am going to make a people strong and righteous, and I will eliminate the devilishment which has come into the world to show and prove real power and wisdom, and bring back peace and supreme balancement forever." Grandfather King Fukur said, "What will you make? Someone to establish order and cause harmony in the world." Yashmal said, "Man plans, and I plan, and surely I am the better planner." And it was at that moment, the boy Yashmal first came into the knowledge of just who he was, born to establish order, bring peace, build, create, and be the redeemer to the Ebenoid peoples of Earth. It is common for members of the Shayuk tribe to finish all of the coursework taught in all of the colleges and universities of the surface world by age 9, but Yashmal finished by age 7. If it took a member of the Shayuk tribe until age 18 to finish all of the coursework taught in all of the colleges and universities of the surface world, then that person would surely be looked at as being mentally handicapped or mentally retarded. Yashmal finished all of the advanced universal sciences which are taught by the schools in the inner earth by the time he was age 12, even though it is common to finish this coursework by age 15, but Yashmal was a genius and a prodigy. After finishing school, Yashmal met with the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner earth and told them of his intention to travel to the surface world as a bringer of peace and redeemer of the Ebenoid people. Yashmal was tried and tested by the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner earth, and once found worthy, at age 18, Yashmal traveled to the area presently known as the Mwanza region near the countries of Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya in Africa. Yashmal called his new doctrine Teachnology, and his holy book was called the Book of Teachnology of 720 Degrees, which was in a question and answer format designed to get the mental energies of the listeners flowing in the same direction, which would in turn create unity, harmony, and attraction amongst kindred. Yashmal's new doctrine was so powerful that he had millions of people from all of the tribes on the earth coming to hear his message and aspiring to be a part of his mission. However, from the millions of followers that he gained on the surface of the earth, Yashmal only selected 144,000, which he called the chosen few, to be a part of the next phase of his plan, and when Yashmal and his chosen few departed, he told the people on the surface of the earth he would be back in one day. So Yashmal selected 41,150 Ebenoid females and 41,140 Ebenoid males for a total of 82,290 people from the
Okay, 144,000.
Those are very specific numbers, by the way.
Yeah, that's why it's getting interesting now. 144,000. The fact that he came up and gathered all the people in peace.
It's kind of it's almost putting more weight on the skeptical side of this story for me in a way. But at the same time, I was encouraged to go look up if there's any animals that have more than one brain. And then it turns out the word brain is kind of subjective. Like, there's some animals that well, at least according to the internet, well, I'm looking at Google, so I didn't have a lot of time to do that much deep diving. But I read that giraffes have 3 brains. Huh?
Get out of here.
Yep, I got to look into that. But
what?
There's cockroaches have more than one brain. But they're okay. What is a brain?
A sensory.
It's a sensory organ, right?
Cockroach has a brain.
So, yeah, there's a bit of it, but one thing they mentioned in the video, which got me thinking about it, was that these like 2 races that created that, through the marriage and created that other race, they were both genetic scientists. Like, and I'm thinking, okay, and they were able to predict thousands of years into the future just based on DNA. And this got me thinking, like, what if consciousness and like time and space can be manipulated through DNA? Because that's what DNA does. It's a hard drive for time and space and consciousness at the same time. The Holy Trinity, time, space, consciousness.
Yep, actually, all them things went through my head while I'm watching it. And actually, me and Donnie watched this together. And
did you notice the guy's head looks even more like a Mars bar now?
I'm glad I don't eat them anymore. I stopped eating them a long time ago when I found out what was made.
That's my favorite Halloween candy.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Look like rotten white to me.
Yeah. Oh no, we got a thing called chocolate crackles here. Anyway, yeah, very interesting story.
It looks like a Whoppers ball left out in the sun if we're going in for Halloween treats.
But we know that the one thing they're not telling us about history, they're not telling us a lot, right? But one thing I noticed is they talk about these beings in all different religions and that. And it's only now you're starting to find out what they really look like, right? Because we were talking to Sid earlier about horns and horns coming out of your head. Me and Jules had talked about it earlier. Who was that fella who had horns? That parted this? Was it the guy that parted this?
Yeah. When I was going through my studies, which we did last week, of the Emerald Tablet, led me because they're Hermes Trismegistus. He was said to have the 3 parts wisdom. And Hermes was said to transcend death. He had the ability to incarnate when he wanted. And some of his incarnations were like Alexander the Great, Thoth. There's a couple of in Tutankhamun, and then I found images, and Moses was one of them. I found images of all these people that he is supposedly reincarnated in, and they have horns. Even Alexander the Great had a coin where his hair was turned in like the ram's horn.
Interesting.
Does that have anything to do with the constellation Taurus? Or maybe, depending on the time period, it might have been the constellation of Aries. I wonder if that
the constellation that's inside the horns of Taurus is the Crab Nebula. It's either the Crab or the Eagle Nebula. I mean, I've like looked into so much stuff. It's like all like swirling around in my head, and so I'm giving accurate descriptions of, and some of them I have to like think.
You're right, Jules. All right, we'll get back to the story here. There's a lot of numbers going to be chucked out in a minute, and it might make your head swim a bit. But
no, I'm just gonna probably just write them down and.
That's what we got you. That's why I got you all here. Because this needs more than one brain. This guy, they reckon, had 2 brains. I need How many
It's-
have got here?
Wow, 8 hours.
It's too early in the evening for numbers.
If I only had a brain.
Oh my god, it's 4:20.
All right, let's get on with this because we're going to hit the 2-hour mark.
And Your Honor said.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Baby.
Original
PPP.
Ebenoid tribe. Yashmal selected 10,285 Rubedoid females and 10,285 Rubedoid males for a total of 20,570 people from the Rubedoid tribe. Yashmal selected 10,285 citrinoid females and 10,285 citrinoid males for a total of 20,570 people from the citrinoid tribe. And Yashmal selected 10,285 albinoid females and 10,285 albinoid males for a total of 20,570 people from the albinoid tribe, which made 144,000 people total. Yashmal took his followers into the inner earth through an opening beneath the Great Lake in the present-day area known as the Mwanza region in Africa to begin his eugenics genetic engineering experiment of grafting the various tribes of people on the earth back into the original Ebenoid tribe. Yashmal, being a master genetic engineer who was all-wise, right, and exact, knew that it was not necessary to kill anyone in order to accomplish his goal because he had knowledge of the science of dominant and recessive genes. Knowing that the Ebenoid tribe was the first, then Yashmal knew the Ebenoid gene would be the most dominant, followed by the Rubedoid gene, followed by the citrinoid gene, and lastly followed by the albinoid gene. While inside the inner earth with his followers, Yashmal applied the science of dominant and recessive genes to design and engineer a system of arranged marriages by which the offspring born from each arranged marriage would have certain desirable qualities, and in time over a period of 900 years, all of the derivative tribes would have been grafted back into the original Ebenoid tribe. Yashmal also observed that the gene of the Ebenoid woman was the most dominant gene, and so Yashmal established the following rules of arranged marriages amongst his followers. 10,285 Ebenoid women and 10,285 Ebenoid men would marry to keep the Ebenoid gene strong and pure. 10,285 Ebenoid women would marry 10,285 Rubedoid men. 10,285 Ebenoid women would marry 10,285 citrinoid men. 10,285 Ebenoid women would marry 10,285 albinoid men. 10,285 Ebenoid men would marry 10,285 Rubedoid women. 10,285 Ebenoid men would marry 10,285 citrinoid women. 10,285 Ebenoid men would marry 10,285 albinoid women. Yashmal would also keep 10 Ebenoid women as wives for himself. The men and women were required to get married by age 19, and each couple were to have 2 children. Living in the inner earth where he was from, Yashmal was continuously regenerated and rejuvenated and did not die like his cousin Yaqub on the surface of the earth. Yashmal was able to teach, socialize, laugh, play with the children, enjoy life, and observe the generations and progression of his followers over the centuries. The offspring of the Ebenoid woman and the Ebenoid man would always be Ebenoid. The offspring of the Ebenoid woman and the Rubedoid man would also be Ebenoid because of the strength of the Ebenoid woman's genes. The offspring of the Ebenoid woman and the citrinoid man would be Ebenoid 75% of the time, and Rubedoid 25% of the time, because of the strength of the Ebenoid woman's genes. The offspring of the Ebenoid woman and the albinoid man would be Ebenoid 75% of the time, and citrinoid 25% of the time, because of the strength of the Ebenoid woman's genes. The offspring of the Ebenoid man and the Rubedoid woman would be Ebenoid 75% of the time, and Rubedoid 25% of the time. The offspring of the Ebenoid man and the citrinoid woman would be Rubedoid. The offspring of the Ebenoid man and the albinoid woman would be citrinoid. With the laws of arranged marriages in place, it would take Yashmal's chosen 144,000 people 46 generations over the course of 900 years to be grafted back into the original Ebenoid tribe. During this time, for some generations recessive genes would tumble forward. After 12 generations, all of the albinoids had been grafted back into the citrinoid, Rubedoid, and Ebenoid tribes. After another 16 generations, all of the citrinoids had been grafted back into the Rubedoids and Ebenoids. After another 18 generations, all of the Rubedoids had been grafted back into the Ebenoids, leaving only the original Ebenoid tribe. It was also observed that after 4 generations, if the albinoids refused to mix in, then they would be unable to conceive offspring after the 4th generation. After 8 generations, if the citrinoids refused to mix in, then they would be unable to conceive offspring after the 8th generation. After 16 generations, if the Rubedoids refused to mix in, then they would be unable to conceive offspring after the 16th generation. Just like electrons flowing from atoms with more electrons to atoms with fewer electrons, it was necessary for the derivative tribes to mix back into the original Ebenoid tribe in order to get recharged and sustain and maintain their existence. However, because of the science of recessive and dominant genes, by mixing back into the original Ebenoid tribe, the derivative tribes would eventually be grafted back into the original Ebenoid tribe in time, leaving only the original Ebenoid tribe on the surface of the planet. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. And so Yashmal smiled at this fact, now having knowledge that the evil acts done by his cousin Yaqub would be reversed just by letting nature take its course. The process of grafting the derivative tribes back into the original Ebenoid tribe took 900 years, and once completed, Yashmal took another 100 years to teach and train his followers how to control and conquer the evil which existed within themselves, rather than attempting to graft the evil out, letting it manifest and personify as a being. After the 1,000-year period with Yashmal in the inner earth, Yashmal returned to the surface of the earth to the area presently known as the Mwanza region in Africa with 144,000 Ebenoid people. When Yashmal and his 144,000 followers returned, the people on the surface of the earth said, "Yashmal, you said you would be gone for one day, and you were true to your word. You have only been gone for one day, but many of the people you have returned with are not the same people you left with. What have you done with our brothers and sisters?" One of the Ebenoid women named Kidara, who was one of Yashmal's wives and one of the 144,000, spoke up and said, "I am the daughter and great descendant of your brothers and sisters, which it seems to you left with Yashmal just yesterday, but we have been with Yashmal in the inner earth for 1,000 years, and Yashmal has taught us the science of genetics and how to rid the world of evil, as well as how to conquer the evil within ourselves." Yashmal spoke and said, "Indeed, one day in the inner earth can be like 1,000 years. Yashmal's 144,000 followers then proceeded to teach the Ebenoid people on the surface of the earth the way to defeat the evil currently plaguing the earth in the same way that Yashmal had taught them. Yashmal returned to the inner earth with his Ebenoid wife Kidara. After returning to the inner earth, Yashmal was elected to a seat as one of the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner earth. Yashmal taught Kidara the secret to eternal life, and they had many children together. Yashmal told Kidara that the Ebenoid woman is the human representative of nature on the surface of the earth, and thus the Ebenoid woman is the key to destroying the evil plaguing the surface of the earth, and she is the key to bringing peace and balance back to the surface of the earth. Yashmal told Kidara that it was not him who the 24 wise elder scientists of the inner earth had prophesied about, it was her, the Ebenoid woman. Yashmal told Kidara that he was merely a conduit to allow her to bring balance back to the earth. And so while the big head scientist Yashmal's followers execute his plan on the surface of the earth, Yashmal and Kidara wait with their family in the inner earth for the hereafter, that is to say, here on earth, after evil has been removed, and peace and balance has been restored.
There you go, people. And just to show you at the end, whoa, the birds are coming in the back door. That fella there, sorry. There you go. That was good timing at the end of the show. That fella there was the guy that told the story, and then someone put it in the format what we just saw. So
I know that dude.
You know that dude? Yeah, I saw a picture of that dude. I got to hunt down who he is, but he told the story. And that's how it was formatted, because it's really hard to get a hold of because it's an oral story. It started off as an oral story. But anyway, there you go, folks. Presents a lot of questions. I just keep seeing history. And this is from that, this is from this. And when he went down into the inner earth, and a long time passed here, but not there, it was, he said, around about 1,000 years. One day in the inner earth is around about 1,000 years. So it could be 800 years, 900 years, 789 years. It could be around about 1,000 years, right? So, and then I flash back to history, and it's like the good people in all religions, there's some beautiful person that jumps up and tries to teach us about peace and exactly what they were said at the end, to overcome the darker things in life and become beautiful humans. We've all got to become beautiful humans. So there you go. What do you think? I'm going to put the fire back on. We can have a yarn, because that's all I got for you. Actually, I might just chuck these up for a second. And now you know what I'm talking about. Did all this come from that?
The term eugenics came up a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
And we have
So,
that.
okay, if they were moral, okay, these beings or whatever, they were considered gods by early humans, and they're okay ethically with eugenics. What does that say?
Hey,
Either, to me, it says one of two things. Either we're not capable of ethically accepting a term like eugenics because we don't understand genetics well enough yet and how it ties into personality traits, mental conditions. Everybody thinks of DNA as being physical traits. Oh, well, you're prone to having some problem with your physical body. But I think what genetics is really like, that's only half of genetics. And these people way back then knew about the genetics of how a soul can evolve or how right, like the solar system. They basically had good knowledge of the solar system. The way that Jules spelt it, that's what I'm getting at. And so that's the other half of genetics, right? Because everything has duality.
Yep.
And so if these people way back then knew about that, those two, and they were master scientists at both, and they were ethically okay with eugenics,
Yep.
then I don't even know what the next question is. But
I just
I'm
think
going to
today
just leave it
what
there.
they're doing, yeah, what they're doing today.
What they're doing today is not what they were doing back then. Because
Well,
there's
you
a
know,
there's
I
a
heard
different
planned-
agenda.
I heard words like Planned Parenting. I thought that's a very today word. Oh my
That's
God.
arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Right? Planned Parenting.
It's
Yeah,
same
we
thing
have
as
today.
arranged marriage. Yeah.
We have Planned Parenting. Some of the really horrible things, like we know these horrible things are happening in this world, like you know how he burned the babies, like what he did to the babies, that actually still happens. I actually wondered, do people in this today world see the dark one, the dark brother, right?
There's still a
The
lot of
husband.
planned marriages too, but it's not based on genetics anymore. It's based on family.
Exactly. Now, if you realise, right, you got two cousins, right? A good cousin and a bad cousin. The bad cousin had a diabolical plan, and he did horrible things to children and stuff like that, right? And it resembles something that's going on today. The good cousin tried to teach people of all races to overcome that and become beautiful beings, right? And we know that's happening also today. But can you see the similarity? It's like that's where it come from.
Mm-hmm.
That story of good and bad, you know. And something that come to mind when the bad cousin, when his mum and dad had to come to Earth, they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden kind of thing, and they got kicked onto the Earth, and they had a child.
As above, so below.
Well, yeah, and I'm not implying anything. I'm just thinking I hear these, I watch the thing, I listen to it, and as I was, these things are sparking to me left, right, and centre. I'm trying to recall.
Yeah, the whole Inky and Enlil battle, and how the Anunnaki, they had arranged their marriages were arranged so basically it wouldn't be 24/7 war. Because in that book that I went through, there were two annihilations that happened.
What if they're using the word marriage in a different way that we don't realize? What if they're literally just talking about genetics?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean that these people have to live together. It just means that we married these two people's genes together to create a different byproduct.
This is where, Donnie, in our culture, what do we got? We got a really complicated system of marriage and who's allowed to marry and who isn't. And when we watch this, we automatically went, whoa, we have that in our culture. You there, my brother? Or you fell asleep? Are we boring everybody? Donnie, you there, my bro?
Ground control to Major Tom.
In our culture, the matching up for marriage culture, skin, totem, soil, and all that remind us of what that fella did.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it definitely does in some ways.
You're not allowed to marry them. You can only marry these people.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
I don't know.
here's another thing too. Let's say you don't have the technology to do that anymore, but you have the knowledge that that happened. How are you supposed to describe it to somebody that never even knew what the technology was in the first place, other than use the word marriage?
Yeah, Polly, out here they crossbreed dogs for pig chasing. Like they put a massive over a ridgeback, make a better dog. You don't need the scientists to do that with humans either. Like you can put a human female, Asian girl across a white male.
Well,
So
he
what's the
did that.
difference?
Yeah, he did that, Donnie. That bad cousin bred people to be equivalent to fighting dogs,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And they were meant to breed them to be peaceful, loving companion dogs. Yeah. Sorry, we're not.
Yeah. Well, you can do the opposite. If you can get a dog that can fight, you can actually get the dog to rebreed it to be passive.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, just like you can breed plants to be a certain way, aggressive or passive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
So okay, with that being said, that ties in like the whole DNA thing.
Yeah.
That passive or aggressive, it is like a switch in DNA that these people had knowledge of, and not only could they turn it on and off, but they could add more switches that were the
Yeah.
same passive or aggressive, and then they could turn them like in different combinations on and off at will, and just
Yeah.
spit out different forms of personalities at will.
Well, I can see with DNA there, Polly, like you can get an embryo, and if you know which switches to turn on and off, you can turn that embryo into a fish, but it's still got human DNA in it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you need that knowledge to do that.
When you think about it, I mean, don't they say that all DNA has that same double helix structure? Like, no matter where you
Yeah.
get the DNA from, it's just
Yeah.
all switches. Turn on the right
Yeah.
ones and you get a fish. You turn on the wrong ones and you get a frog.
Yeah.
And you know what I saw? Remember when he discovered that the good cousin discovered polarities? He made a pole flip. Oh, welcome. The mind was shit. Was that what the pole flip is all about? It's flipping us, not actually like, well, when it flips us, it flips the world around us, because that's what happens, right? Is that what it's all about? The pole shifts. It got shifted. Oh, damn. You know what? Remember that petroglyph I always talk about, where Brayoff's told you 100 times that they found out in the desert, and it had a human being with the rainbow attached to the head, and then the human being and the rainbow was disattached, and then a human being with it attached again, which said whatever happened to disattach it would be fixed to put it back again. That's what it reminds me of, that story.
Yeah.
And is the pole shift us and our polarity in thinking? Because we should be centered and have this beautiful energy, and it got shifted to be a shitty energy, a destructive energy, and now we're shifting back to that beautiful energy again. Is that what it means?
It would make sense to me.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all. That's what it means.
However negative it shifts in one direction, it's going to swing back into the positive in exactly the equal distance in the other direction, because that's the law. That's just, I don't know why it's the law, but that seems to be the case in everything.
And Sid put that up, and funny, Sid, when I was looking for literature on this story, there is another story, a book that you can get. It talks about just the guy himself, and it talks about cloning and all that, what you're talking about, you fellas, genetics and all that.
Yeah, that was in the 80s.
Yeah, it talks about that, but I couldn't get it, and you can buy it. but I got no money.
We can grow human ears now on the
Oh,
side of the mice's
Yeah,
stomach.
that was ages
Yeah.
ago. They apparently they clone the Hollywood stars now, so apparently these clones run around in society. Wouldn't surprise me. Like, is that where it all comes from? Like, after hearing
Yes,
that
it comes
story,
from Dolly. The sheep was the first clone. Yeah.
after hearing that story, though, you look at all the history stories that you've heard, if you get into that stuff, obviously, and you can just match up different things, man. There's so much. Like, and it happened thanks to Sid. We understand around about when it happens. Perhaps someone else can grab a hold of the story and actually present all that. We'll see. Like, you're quite welcome to. So, what else did we find? Under Inner Earth, that surprised me. As soon as they mentioned they came, they realised humans were living on the Earth, and they went into Inner Earth. So that
Hey,
was
wait a minute. What's wrong with humans?
humans.
Why can't
Also,
why
Inner
can't
Earth
they
is too
coexist
hot.
with humans? What's wrong with us?
Well, look at the picture in front of you. Look what
Do we
happened.
smell bad or something? Like, why do they have to go in the Middle Earth?
You get a
I'm
hole
sure
in
We
we
your
would
died
have.
of heat exhaustion.
We would have been happy to have them live with us on the surface of the Earth. I'm sure back then. Why not? We maybe would have hit them in the head with a bone or something at first, but I mean, once you get to know us, we're really friendly.
I wonder if that was them after the autopsy.
Yeah, why do they all have
Just stay
holes in
away
their
from
head?
my blue
They all got
T-Rex.
holes in them. That's what I said. If you look like that, that's what's going to happen to you when you come up here living with us. Because
It looks like they've been shot.
Yeah, it does.
It
Or
does.
speared or something. That's what I said to you before. If you look at all of them, they've all got holes in their heads, except for that one. It's a drawing.
Probably clubbed.
It's got a hole up here.
Yeah, see, that's the sacrifice.
hasn't
If
got
you
a
have two
hole.
brains, you only get half as many teeth.
He hasn't got a hole. Hang on, the others have got holes. A hole in the head. Maybe that's where it comes from. That joke about a hole in the head.
I thought that was because of old age.
Hang on. There were photos of these Paracas skulls, and they also had a lot of holes in the heads. And that's what I found funny. I thought, hang on a minute. The majority of these skulls got a hole in the head, which means that somebody killed them.
Or maybe if you have more than one brain, you need a hole in your head so they can breathe.
Ha! But I know that humans are like that. We do kill things that are strange, and before we understand what they are, we kill them, and then understand what they are.
These skulls have my brain almost. Yeah, I'm fired. It's firing up.
But we do
Those skulls
gold.
that there have been pictures where they still have hair on their heads.
Yes, the Baraka
That
skull.
hair, coincidentally, is red.
Red hair. That's right.
And that red hair is linking with the Nephilim. So that might give you a little timeline.
Someone
I'm
will
not
get
a
the whole
ginger.
thing on it.
I
And
heard
I
that
also
gingers are really good in bed.
the where it was, like the Egyptian culture, definitely come out of that, right? And they had technology back then. So obviously us humans weren't that bright because they taught us. They had the technology and the knowledge. And a lot of the myth about Shangri-La and all the underworld cities and all that come out of that, obviously, because that's where they live. Oh, and that's what I want to make a point. Back to those elephant nose people, they cause mischief. Now, we don't know, it's not in the story, what mischief they made here on Earth and how are they continually making mischief for us, and did they make mischief in that story that we didn't know about? So,
Well, I know if I had basically a third hand attached to my face, I would probably cause a lot of mischief.
right now, give me a helping hand.
Right.
All right. So, any other thoughts? Any other thoughts, people?
None are coming to mind.
No? All right.
I'm wondering why those holes there. Like, There's
They
three
got
different,
clubbed.
maybe there are three different skulls, and they all have the same size hole, and they're all in different
Yeah, they got
locations.
clubbed.
But they're
I
like
don't know.
perfect holes. It's almost
Yeah.
like they got hit in the head with a horn or something.
Ha ha ha.
Freaking Vikings. Yeah, Vikings were there.
Yeah, perhaps.
Ah,
Vikings killed them.
it's funny. So there you go. I found that. Just thought it'd be interesting.
That's an interesting thought Buzz has.
Oh, sorry, I'm not paying attention.
Yeah. If they had the chip back then. There you go.
That's what the Vikings told Marco
Oh,
Polo.
yeah, because they had technology, and we know they had the little bags with the thing, and everyone had their technology. You got a point there, eh? Woohoo. So there's a lot they're not telling
What
us
if-
about today.
What if DNA is the chip, Buzz?
Yep.
It's
I
like
thought it was the
an
software.
upgrade to the chip. It's a biological chip.
Yep. Definitely, I agree with that.
It self-records
But,
and
yeah.
self-deletes.
Well, your spirit does that. Your being, what Creator made and put in there these bodies, actually does that. Your spirit records everything. Your soul,
Oh,
whatever you want to
really?
call it. Yep,
I thought
Oh,
that was
I'm in
your
trouble.
brain.
everything, man.
Records
Every night.
everything, huh?
Yeah, it remembers everything.
Damn.
Yeah, so behave yourself and be a
How do you erase it?
A button behind your ear.
Do you erase it with
how do you erase
magnets?
it? No, you come back to have another life and get your mind wiped.
Okay. Oh, speaking
It
of
doesn't work
magnets,
on
that's
your body.
that's one of the things in that story that we watched that I wanted to ask about. Like, how do you have two like perfectly red and white I mean, I know it was just an illustration, but he had magnets. He was playing with them like toys.
Yep. It makes you wonder if we could look how simple we are, us humans.
And how do you have electric magnets when there is no electricity?
It's in the underworld. And apparently they've got all that stuff down there.
The Baghdad batteries?
Oh yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
It's a good song too.
Tells you a lot.
I
That
bet
story.
you could do that. Ionize some magnets with those small batteries.
You could. If you played around with it, you'd be surprised what you come up with, I think.
Well, time is something they had quite a bit of. Yeah. No internet, no Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. We're robbing ourselves on time. We just wasted 2 hours.
Oh no.
We'll never get that back, Luna.
I know. I
No.
hope you enjoyed it.
You know how
Now
we get
that
it
I'm
back?
so old too.
The only way to get it back is to waste 2 more hours going back and watching the show again. and then hitting the
Lost. I enjoyed spending time with you
hit
guys.
the thumbs up and subscribe and all that stuff too, but do it twice.
Yeah,
Because you're not gonna get it back anyways. You might as well do it twice.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny as man.
Oh, I love hanging out here.
Yeah, yeah, I'll enjoy it. I was actually thinking, oh, this is like a party every Saturday lunchtime. Oh,
Cool stories.
there we go. We got Buzz to open our minds a little bit more. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I had fun. Hope you found that interesting. I'm surprised I find things that are interesting enough to actually share. But that's cool. It's been good hanging out. Yeah, so there's that. That's all I got for today. I was looking for something funny, but I didn't find anything that funny. I actually ended up just sitting there watching Australian humour over and over again. And then when I watched it all, I went, not everyone's going to understand that. I don't think that's really funny.
So, what are you on? Twitter, Instagram?
I did
I'm on
find
everything, dude.
that, There was actually a guy, and it was fair dinkum in real life, an Aussie guy. He's sitting in a parking lot, and this was quite lengthy too. This is what I was watching last night. He's sitting in a parking lot. The whole front of his car's kind of crunched up underneath because we got little cement things at the end of the parking spot. And if you go over it, it's just going to demolish the underneath of your car, right? So he went over it. He was drunk. So he's just sitting in his car and he's pissed off. He's drunk, right? And he's just sitting in his car and the coppers turn up and they go, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "I'm waiting for my mate." He goes, "What's your mate's name?" I think he said James. And he's like, "What are you doing in the car?" He goes, "I told you I'm waiting for my mate." And he's just sitting there like this with this stud mullet look on his face because he's drunk as, right? What he was doing, I think he was sitting there waiting for himself to sober up. Anyway, the cop's trying to tell him, "Your car's all smashed up in the front. You just had a car accident and I think you've been drinking. I can smell it." And he's going, "No, I haven't. It wasn't me. I'm just sitting here waiting for my mate."
That's a good story. You can't prove it.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Have you got a license?" He goes,
You
"I haven't
got
got
video?
I had no license, right?" And he goes, "Are you drunk driving?" And you had no. He goes, "No, I'm just sitting here waiting for my mate." And I kept to that story. A little bit later, because this took a while because he was drunk, and the coppers gently trying to get him to understand what happened. And he asked him, the copper again asked him his name, and he told him his name was James. That's who he was waiting for. He was waiting for himself to come back. Oh, it was funny. But yeah, it was like a 7 minute. It took a while to get to this point. Anyway, in the end, the guy must have been sobering up more, and the cop did a breathalyzer on him, and he said, "You have to come back to the police station." And he's like, "Oh." They had kind of talked him into it, and he goes, "I trust Joe." He said to the copper, "I trust Joe." You never say that. I trust Joe. I came back with you, and then he goes, "You do realise that you're going to be charged for drunk driving because you just smashed your car?" He goes, "But I wasn't driving." So yeah, I had that, but it was very lengthy, and I realised watching it in real life wasn't as funny as the whole thing when I'm telling you about. Yeah, so
But he's probably going to get off because if nobody saw him crash the car, he could have literally just walked up to the car, opened the door, sat down inside, and said, "Yo, I just found an empty car that just clearly got smashed. Meet me here in the parking lot."
Yeah, I would have said that.
I'm going to have a nap.
He wasn't fast enough to think about it. It was like in his days, drunk days. I wonder if I can find it now. I don't know if I saved it. I don't think I saved it. How am I going to find it without pulling it up on screen? Is the answer. Maybe I can do it this way. Wait a minute.
Oh, look at Ken. He's bottling homebrew beer.
Ha!
One for the bottle, two for me. One for the bottle, two for me. One for the...
One for you, two for me.
Oh, it's morning already?
Yeah, it's morning. What? I only have 4 bottles.
Oh, I also saw, yeah, that's that one. There's a Australian, it's a comedy sketch. Australian teacher is explaining to the kids when they go on an excursion to watch out for snakes and what do you do if you get someone gets bitten by a snake. I was in stitches, but I don't know if you've got the same sense of humour. And it goes.
We don't have the same sense of snakes, that's for sure.
Well, you might find it funny. Hang on.
Our snakes are really polite up here in Canada. You step on them and they say sorry.
They say sorry.
They start yelling and run back into
If you want to see some funny stuff, when I was doing snakes symbolism a few months ago, and I didn't know it was a thing, people go and they post pictures and they draw like arms and feet on snakes. They take some pictures out of them.
Oh, you might find this funny then. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Hang on, I'm having trouble sharing it. Oh, damn, how do I share that? You can't share it with me. Hang on. I know how to find it. Sorry, everybody. It's my left hand. Where? I think it was the bottom one. It was. Here it is. Let's do it. Oh. Why isn't it sharing? Because it's not. Oh, no, I've got this. I've got it. Hope you find this funny.
Which is why today I want to talk to you about what to do if you see someone bitten by a snake. Michael.
Torture the snake to death as an example to all the other snakes?
Well, what you can do to help the person that's been bitten.
Let them torture the snake to death?
Well, they might be in too much pain to do that. So how could we help them relieve the pain of the snake bite?
Cut their leg off and use it to beat the snake to death?
That might be a little excessive.
Cut their leg off and just throw it away?
No. Can anyone think of a way to treat a snake bite that does not involve torturing a snake to death or cutting anyone's leg off? No? All right, I'll give you a clue. It involves applying pressure to the wound. Derek.
You tie the snake around their leg?
No, they might just end up getting bitten again.
Tie the snake around your own leg.
No. All right, look, I'll tell you. If you see someone getting bitten by a snake, then just remember this. It's simple. Apt reverse. Eh? Apply pressure to the wound before exacting revenge on the snake.
Just say by the time you find your mate, they're already dead from the snake bite. Then can you cut their leg off and use it to beat the snake to death?
If you like.
There you go.
Oh my god, that was hilarious.
You
I had
that
to
funny?
mute because otherwise you would have been listening to me laughing the whole time.
Cool. All right, on that note, what else have I got for you?
Luna, you've got to send that to me in Discord because
Alan, you are the worst shape ever! Walk up the hill, turn around. Here's Patrick! Bugger off, you creep. Righto, listen up. Who does it belong to? Come on, own up. It didn't just fall out of the sky. Patrick! We've talked about this. This is a sheep yard, not an alpaca yard.
Aussie farmers. Do you want me to keep going? I've got a couple.
why not? I'm not going to say no to laughs.
All right.
Same here.
I'm Polly. I hope you're laughing too, Donnie, there. What else have I got? All right. I can't even remember what I got, so bear with me.
You want to know how hot it gets down under? You can actually bake cookies in the... Jeez. Oh. Bake cookies in the car from the sun.
I'm laughing because it happens to us, doesn't it, Donnie?
That happens here too, though.
Does it happen?
But nobody bakes cookies in the car because they would just get stolen.
You can, oh, right.
Someone would smash your windshield. Some homeless guy. Oh my God, cookies right in plain sight. They're almost done. Your Honor, I didn't want them to burn, so I broke the windshield.
Broke into the car. That's a good excuse.
Yeah, I was saving the cookies. How come you're allowed? How come you're allowed to lock cookies in the car but not babies?
Oh dear. All right, now this one you're going to appreciate, Polly. It's a word thing, and you have to listen carefully. I had to watch it twice, but if you want me to play it again, I will. But listen carefully. And I can't find the one I was talking about the drunk guy. I must have thought it wasn't any good. All right, here we go.
Righto, welcome back to Baron U. Now, there's this fucking fear out there, right? It's a fear, and it's a fear of palindromes. And a palindrome is a word that's spelt the same way forwards as it is backwards. So you can read it backwards and it still says the same word, right? That's what a fucking palindrome is. And the fucking word for this fear is called abophobia. Now go on, you fucking read that backwards. That fucking, the name for the fucking fear itself is the palindrome. Who was the fucking arsehole who come up with the fucking name for the fear of palindromes using a fucking palindrome.
His name was Bob.
Fuck me.
Bob's mom.
He doesn't know who Bob is? I wish I could comment on that video and say his name was Bob. Idiot.
His name was Bob Radar.
Bob saw you coming, and Bob has a taco cat.
Oh, there you go. That's the funny for the
Bob
week.
Radar with a taco cat.
Yep.
I didn't even know that existed till I watched that, and then I just thought about it, and then I just went, I don't blame him for getting
It's
up there
funny
and doing
though, the
that.
fear of palindromes. That's hilarious.
Yeah, right.
Is that real?
Obviously, they called it something. They
Okay,
actually
okay. This is
medically
making
named
me
it.
think of something. So I'm working on something that's like it's not like it's a palindrome in a way. So it's this poem that I'm working on, and when you read it from top to bottom, it has a certain vibe. And then I was like, wait a minute, what if I just read it from bottom to top? It still works, but it has the complete opposite vibe, and I didn't mean to do it. It's like a palindrome verse or poem or series of sentences that you can read in order from top to bottom or from bottom to top, and it still makes sense, but it has like a slightly different vibe to it. It's almost like it's almost like when you read it top to bottom, it's like a male version of it, and when you read it bottom to top, it's like a female version of it.
Well, that's interesting.
When it's done, I'll share it, maybe.
Okay, that'll be interesting, Paul.
So what is that? Palindromes, they do that. That's like the law of duality, or the law of
Palindromes are also
something.
can be numbers too.
Exactly.
I didn't know it was called a palindrome, and when I first watched that, I thought he was talking about the paladines in that game that the kids play. I'm thinking, this don't make sense, and then I realised he was talking about a word. Yeah. My daughter's name is a palindrome. Should have called a palindrome. Hey, that's not one of your cousins, is it, Polly? Palindrome.
Well, the thing about being called yeah, probably.
A distant cousin.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, you totally threw me off what I was gonna say now.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, that was a good one.
I wonder how Esther is these days.
Oh, she's good. She's been recycled a few times.
Uncle Palindrome. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, what were you saying, Polly?
Oh, wait. Okay, I remember what it was now. If your name is Palindrome, then your short form is Hey Pal. Excuse me, it's Palindrome. I don't like being called Pal.
Is that where PayPal comes from? Oh, that's nice, Buzz. Yeah, quite a Buzz one. That's sweet. Hang on. Left hand, do it until. There you go. Okay. Oh,
My left hand doesn't take orders from anybody.
Neither does mine.
Not even me.
3 weeks. Oh dear. I figured they wanted me to get into that side of my brain, so they totally disabled one hand. So I was forced to do it.
So then you're in the right side of your brain. Isn't it your right hand controls the left side of your brain, and your left side of the brain is controlled by your right hand?
Yeah.
So you might be the wrong hand, but the right place.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh. Yeah, so anyway, it'll figure itself out. It'll all balance out in the end, I know that. Oh, dear. All right. What do we got? Oh, we're way over 2 hour mark now. We're up to 2.5 hours. We should let these good people go.
Otherwise, we're just going to keep getting sillier.
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna happen.
No. All I can say is we've got one more place left for the backstage party if you want to join in. So when we leave, we can still yarn. So you've got a few minutes there. I'm just going to put in if anyone wants to hang around after the show with us and have a laugh or talk, you are quite welcome to, because I haven't got much to do today. There it is, and we're going to say Yalu, but before we do that, I'm just going to ask my beautiful guest, did you have a good time today, or did you enjoy what we did, and do you have any last thoughts?
I had a wonderful time. It just, I learned some stuff, and I definitely have expanded on some things. And good time was had by all. I mean, it's always a beautiful, wonderful stream when I have work. I go away with questions.
Cool. That's good. Expand your mind. Don't get too big-headed, though. So, Sid, did you have fun, my brother?
KBS forever.
Yeah, KBS forever. We all know that's it. It's been branded on our hearts.
All the
Thanks for
time I
coming.
can spend with my old friends is beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Sid. Thanks for your wisdom and your knowledge from.
And I think it's really interesting. Just because we don't agree, it doesn't mean I don't think it's interesting.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's what all this is about.
Exactly.
Yeah, we all come together and looking at it. We're all going to have different thoughts on it, obviously. But yeah, it's just good to come together, like around the fire. That's what I love. That's why I say thank you for coming. I hope you can make it another time. Sorry for keeping you up so late too, by the way, Sid. So, and Polly, my dear friend.
Well, hey, one thing before I say goodbye. Hey, Sid, you touched on something that made me think of this, that seeing eye to eye doesn't really matter if you see heart to heart.
Oh, true.
Right? Yeah.
True.
Big hugs, brother. It's good to talk to you again. And it's always awesome to sit around the campfire here with Luna, Jules, Donnie. You're muted, by the way, so when you try to say goodbye, you want to unmute. I'm just teasing.
I say goodbye.
And with that, I'll say Yalu and stay bright. And maybe, hopefully, I'll see you next week.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
And you, Donnie, thanks for coming, brother.
No worries.
It's always interesting when you're on. Hang in there. I'll talk to you in a second. And you watching, thanks for coming. Thanks for sitting with us and laughing and expanding our minds and looking at interesting things and sitting around the fire. And till next time, stay centered. Love to you on this day. Yalu, enjoy the fire. Stay warm in your heart. Let's all move together as one. And we'll see you next week. Okay, press that button. Yalu, see ya.
Yalu.